Good morning. Sorry about the delay. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone, whether you're here with us in Washington, D.C. or join us live via join us via the live stream, in which case you're probably even more confused. Today, we gather to mark the transition from one academy year to the next. Later, before the awards luncheon, I'll have the honor of formally passing the presidential gavel to the very capable hands of Tricia Matson, your new Academy president. Tricia and I will make some remarks during that session that shine light on the Academy's course as we move from the 60th year of the Academy that we're celebrating today into our 61st year. The many congratulations that we've received from people, and organizations throughout the year about the anniversary have been very meaningful. That includes just last week receiving a special citation from the Rhode Island House of Representatives commemorating the anniversary in the Academy as, or quote, as the profession's voice on public policy and professional issues by providing a nonpartisan, actuarial, fiscal, and economic perspective. It's a great honor and an inspiration for our continued leadership, and really focuses on the role that we try to play as the Academy and reinforcement of the stakeholders we support across all levels of government. Leadership is always much more than a one-person effort. That's why immediately following this session, we'll have a window into how the Academy is leading the profession as the National Association for all U.S. Actuaries. We'll hear from a panel of Academy vice presidents and soon-to-be vice presidents of all our practice areas about the Academy's wide-ranging work and how the Academy's course takes shape with purpose, engaged in over 1,000 dedicated volunteers from around the country in different practice areas.
Hello, hello. Welcome back. I think we'll get started. There we go. So good morning again. How is everybody doing? Good? Good. Thanks for being here. So it was great to have that overview from Jeff Bush. It's exactly the kind of intelligence that helps the Academy and its practice councils stay attuned to what's happening and what we need to be thinking about as we lead the profession in 2026. Jeff's commitment to being nonpartisan is especially appreciated given our own commitment to being objective, independent, and balanced in all we do. So Jeff did some stage setting of the emerging trends, themes, and factors that are in play as the Academy looks forward to executing plans for the next year. And in this session, we're going to get into some of the finer details of what's top of mind for the Academy against that backdrop and all the other intelligence that our organization has collected and factored into planning over this past year. As Daryl noted in his welcome, leaders start with the big picture and then use that big picture to guide how the finer details of ideas, plans, and projects will come to fruition. This approach enables us to advance the Academy's mission and ensure our profession has an effective voice. To shine a light on that process, I'm pleased to be joined on stage by the Academy's incoming council vice presidents, who I'll introduce momentarily. Each of them is uniquely positioned at the bridge that connects the big picture into the individual council activities that turn ideas into action. And I personally have never been a council vice president, but I've watched many of them in action, and I can tell you, these are the guys that do all the hard work. So I'm thrilled to have them here talking to you all today. Each of the panelists is plugged into the large volume of their own council's work that you read about every week in This Week, every month in the Actuarial Update, every other month in Contingencies, and in the Academy's practice-specific newsletters. Many of you in the audience have met or worked with one or maybe a couple of them, and today we have a chance to meet and hear from almost all of them together on stage. Before the introductions, I'll also add that the panelists have an ear not just to their own council's work streams, but those of other councils as well. They participate in board meetings and strategic planning at the Academy that takes a profession-wide perspective, which is essential to the Academy as the organization for all U.S. actuaries. The Academy's vice presidents benefit from hearing early and often about trends affecting actuaries, whether those actuaries are in their own practice area or in a different one. This early warning system of sorts is built into the dialogue that happens regularly within the Academy's governance structure. This enables learnings from one practice area to translate into new or early thinking about impacts in other areas, and the profession as a whole benefits from that. Today's discussion will touch on various aspects of our panelists' complex roles with the goal of providing you with a window into what they and their councils are thinking about heading into the next year. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today's discussion. I'm going to go in order from me to the end. So we have Nancy Verens, Vice President of Professionalism and Education, Bruce Cadenhead, Vice President of Retirement, Annette James, Vice President of Health, Susan Kent, Vice President of Casualty, and Kirsten Peterson, Vice President of Life. Unfortunately, Bill Jones, Vice President of Risk Management and Financial Reporting, could not be here today. Now, let's move right into the discussion with some questions for the panelists. So this question is for all of you. Each of the practice councils have identified 3 to 5 key policy priorities for 2026. Where do you see the most opportunity for your practice council to focus in the new year? And we'll go in order, starting with you, Nancy.
Okay, so right now we're sitting here 6 weeks from today. The new membership requirements go into effect. So beginning on January 1st, applicants for membership in the Academy, including those who are applying for reinstatement, must review the 14 competencies included in the competency framework and attest that they have attained the required level of knowledge. Many applicants will have gained most of this knowledge through earning a credential or through work experience, but most will also have some gaps. So for the past 3 years, the Committee on Education, which was new 3 years ago, has been working together with the membership committee to talk about what kind of resources need to be available on our website for applicants to study and gain the knowledge that they need. As applicants use those educational resources, we're going to learn a lot. We're going to find out where we have gaps, what we need to still fill, and we'll be paying attention to that and updating those resources as necessary. So that's taking up a lot of our time right now.
I bet it is. Thank you so much. Bruce?
I want to start with Social Security. We already heard a good bit about that. What I've been referring to, what we're hoping to do is to raise the temperature and try to accelerate the time where we're going to actually have action on this. I mean, the ideal time to act was a long time ago, but now is better than later. So we heard in the earlier talk about the pain quotient. So I see our mission as trying to help accelerate that pain quotient so that we can get some action. Now, we can't do that alone as actuaries, but we can provide resources to all of those who are concerned about doing this. So the sooner we get action on that, the better. Another area is lifetime income, which is increasingly coming from defined contribution plans. I grew up with defined benefit plans, but I recognize that the traditional DB plan is not the answer going forward. So we've made a lot of progress on making DC plans more accessible, but the challenge of the spend down is still a big challenge. And there are a lot of things that we're working on that we can do to help facilitate really a whole range of different ideas in that area. So that's another focus. Now, DB plans are maybe not the future, but there is still some potential. And so revitalization of those plans, to the extent that we can do that, I think is also another area that we want to focus on. That financial risks to plan sponsors have been a big concern. Going forward, I think designs that don't place so much financial risk on sponsors, we're already seeing a lot of interest in that area. I think that can be supported through additional legislation, and we're working on that. We have a lot of ideas in that area. PBGC premiums is another big part of that. That's really choking off any interest where we talk to sponsors who would be interested in reopening or expanding their defined contribution plans, but those premiums are just too high. And there's, I think, nobody on the other side of that issue, but the challenge is getting that done with the congressional budgeting rules. So we want to try to clear the way and get to make new ideas more accessible in that area. So that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Thank you. I think the audience is starting to get a sense of all that work that I was talking about that these folks do. So thank you for that. Annette.
So, first I'll start with the 3 priorities of the Health Practice Council. The first one is a focus on health spending, the cost of care and the trying to improve the efficiency of healthcare health spending. So this priority focuses on figuring out what the drivers, well, we know what the drivers of health spending are, but focusing on those drivers of health spending, which are cost, utilization, and the value of care. And so, trying to figure out ways to inform legislators and policymakers about the drivers of costs and how to control them. The second one is a good one, informing stakeholders, policymakers, legislators, regulators about how policy decisions impact the other markets, other than the market that they're thinking about. So the interconnectedness, the interdependency of the different markets. So that's the second one. And then the third one, so that's pretty short term because there are a lot of policies that are being debated right now as we speak. And so, so that's a fairly short term sort of focus. For the longer term, we're also interested in looking at emerging topics, not the ones that are bubbling up right now, but the ones that we think will become important in the next year or so. And the interesting thing is the last couple of days, the Health Practice Council has spent time talking to stakeholders about what's important to them so that we could align what we do in the Health Practice Council to what they're interested in. And it's interesting because we had a conversation with Katie Keith from Georgetown University and Matt Gallivan, who's the staff director from the Senate Health Committee, which is Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee. And so we asked them essentially that question, how best could we help them and the people they serve? And what they said was interesting because these are the two opposite ends of the spectrum, and they both had the same answer. What you can do is go back to basics and provide education, unbiased, independent, what's the other word? Objective information to policymakers. But don't start at the graduate level. Start at kindergarten. So back to basics. So that will be our theme. You will, anytime you talk to me or anyone from the Health Practice Council, that's what you'll hear, back to basics.
Side. First off, artificial intelligence. So we want to make sure that we're empowering actuaries to use artificial intelligence in a way that's both professional and ethical. We had a pretty energetic conversation yesterday in our council meeting about this very topic, just trying to make sure that it's used in a way that adheres to all of our ASOPs. We want to educate actuaries on ways that they can use AI. I mean, there's a lot of benefits out there, but we also want to make sure that they're aware of the costs. And then we want to influence policy by continuing to provide feedback to the NAIC and regulators on the governance policies that are being put into place. Secondly, affordability and availability. So, this has been a topic for some states for quite a while. For some lines of business, I'm thinking Florida and homeowners, but with the California wildfires early in the year, it became a really hot topic. In the Midwest, severe convective storms over the last several years, the rise in both the frequency and severity have made some carriers pull back from providing coverage. With inflation, I mean, it was kind of like the confluence of both inflation and then these storms. Just the rising costs have really hit homeowners hard. We did provide a comment letter to the NAIC. They're putting together a handbook on affordability and availability for homeowners, and so we did provide feedback on that already. It's also an issue for personal automobile, and oftentimes it seems like that issue of availability and affordability gets really close to the issues of equity and bias. There's a lot of overlap in that space. So we're continuing to do work on that front as well. And then thirdly, monitoring and responding to changes in the federal government and federal agencies that impact casualty policies. So one of the things we did in 2025 is we sent a comment letter to NOAA when they discontinued the $1 billion climate and disaster database, largely through the work of Steve Kolk and the Extreme Events Committee, who provided wonderful feedback. And I was really happy to find out yesterday from Steve that the individual that had maintained the database for NOAA is now maintaining that database at Climate Central. So we will continue to have that data available to us. Tariffs, are another thing that's happening. We've talked about that already some this morning, but that continues to be something on the horizon where casualty actuaries are trying to figure out how that's going to impact costs. And then FEMA. I feel like I've seen so many headlines these days about FEMA and possible eliminations of FEMA. And there would be a lot of disruption if the National Flood Insurance Program were discontinued and we went to a fragmented approach with the private carriers that's not subsidized. It would have all sorts of implications for availability and affordability and pricing and underwriting that would have to be thought through quickly.
All right, thanks. So on the life side of things, when we look at 2026 priorities, we actually have 6 of them. So there's a lot. And when trying to look at if there was one we wanted to focus on, couldn't do it. So what I looked at was, what do they all center around, or most of them center around, is really reputational risk of life insurance and the public's trust in us and in life insurance. And so looking at, you've got on our list, we have illustrations. Well, we're not sure what we're going to do with illustrations, but there has been a lot about it in the news lately, social media. So we just know there's going to be something coming up. We've got companies choosing more complex assets. Okay, so that's a key. We've also got RBC, looking at how is that calculated, how is it being used. So that's sort of another key thing. And then we've got also with underwriting, just how it's being used, all the data that is in there. Is there bias in there? So that's another one. There's just several priorities that we have that are really important. So, but the key thing is we want to help with maintaining and building the public's trust. So, thank you so much.
I did want to mention, since Bill could not be here, that for the Risk Management and Financial Reporting Council, which tends to be a little bit of a kind of a catch-all council for things that are very cross-practice in nature, some of their priorities relate to artificial intelligence, reinsurance, and some financial reporting issues. And just something that we see, I think, as a common thread as we hear across all the practice councils is just the idea of supporting financial security for Americans and engaging with stakeholders on these hot topics. We sort of see that everywhere. So on the theme of talking about cross-practice opportunities, this one, Susan, is for you. So thinking of that both between practice areas and between policy and professionalism, what is one cross-practice issue that is top of mind for you as we anticipate 2026?
Yes. Well, and it's helpful that I'm sitting next to Annette because I'm going to go back to availability and affordability. It's interesting with everything that we talked about this morning already on the Affordable Care Plan. There's a situation where coverage is mandated and rating variables are very limited, which in itself creates subsidization across the system, but also there are outright subsidies. And I just think it's interesting because on the casualty side, often, with state regulation, sometimes with legislation, there's interest in limiting rating variables. And a lot of times that's with the thought of increasing affordability. But we want to make sure that we're continuing to inform regulators that when you limit rating variables, there's impacts on availability. And a lot of times, you're impacting other people with affordability. I mean, it's the underlying costs remain the underlying costs. And so if there is a way to take some of that cost out of the system, it's, insurance is the go-between between the things that are driving the cost and the people then that are paying for the insurance. And so insurance isn't necessarily the problem, and maybe the problem can be addressed at getting at some of the underlying cost drivers. But I do think there's just really interesting parallels between what is happening with healthcare and then what's happening with the property casualty.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to move on to you, Annette. So if you could sit down for an hour with any stakeholder or stakeholder group, a member of Congress, a federal or state agency, a state legislator, or one of our other audiences, who would you pick? And it doesn't have to be specific. You can, be general about who that is. And then what issue would you discuss with them?
Okay, so the biggest problem here is you give me 1 hour and you ask me to talk to one person. So I'm going to break the rules. And I'm not going to put a time limit on how long I'm going to talk. And I'd like to have several people in the room. Because I think, and the reason is, I'll give you the reason first before I give you my answer. The reason is that part of the problem that we have is that we're all in our separate little silos, right? And so they're policymakers, federal policymakers and lawmakers and so on. And they make their rules. And then the leaders in the state are there saying, but this is going to happen to my state, right? So I would like to have a room full of regulators, members of Congress, governors, just everybody, right? And well, I hope I have at least one other person with me for protection. But yeah, I would like to talk about the drivers of healthcare cost, and not just that, but the implications across markets. Because as I say, we're all very siloed, right? So the implications across markets and across the different parts of the health ecosystem. So what does that mean? So The fact is, you have a policy on Medicaid, and it impacts not just Medicaid, but impacts the individual healthcare market. It impacts whether people are insured or uninsured, right? Because that is a market. Then it also impacts different parts of the health ecosystem. And by that, what I mean is, so it impacts the providers, right? The providers of healthcare, so the hospitals. Rural hospitals may see an impact that, may not be helpful. And the cost to the state budgets are impacted. So I would like for there to be a forum. So now it's virtual because we have even more people. But I would like to have the forum to sit and talk to people about what their policy really does, what it means, all the rippling effects across the different markets and across the whole healthcare ecosystem.
Okay, so I don't know about you all, but I definitely want to go. Anybody else? Sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it? Okay, so since Annette broke the rules, I figure I'll ask someone deep in professionalism who will probably follow my rules. So Nancy, how about you? Same question.
So yeah, I might follow the rules, but it won't be nearly as funny as what Annette said. So if I had someone to just sit down and talk with, and I know that we do a little bit of this, but I would be interested in talking with non-actuary employers of a lot of actuaries, because I'm not sure that those non-actuaries really get the value that actuaries are bringing to them and the importance of them supporting their continuing education and so on. So there's a really great article about this called Explaining Professionalism to Principals. And I use that very heavily in thinking of a couple of things to say to you, but I just don't know if all employers really understand the value to them and the things that actuaries bring to them. The fact that actuaries have to follow a code of conduct, that there are actuarial standards of practice out there that actuaries have to follow. They can't just do whatever their bosses want them to do. They have to follow a code of conduct and standards of practice. The resources that actuaries have to go to through the academy when there's a new project they're working on or something that they're not quite sure about, all of the resources that we have out there, and how the standards of practice as well as the code of conduct really help that actuary attain the same goals as their principals. So that employer might not really understand how much the interests of the actuaries and the boss, if you will, interact. So everybody has an interest in making sure that, for instance, pension plans are well-funded or their companies are going to remain solvent in the long run. And so those interests are really aligned, but the actuaries might just have a longer view of that than perhaps their employers. The last thing I would say about that is that there's an increasing reliance on the actuary's professionalism. So I grew up on the life side, so I would say the poster child for that on the life side is principles-based reserves. So before, when I was a new actuary, we had prescribed interest rates, prescribed mortality tables, and everything to calculate the reserves by. But now actuaries have much more leeway and therefore much more responsibility to actually determine what those elements are and rely on those in doing their calculations. So I would love to sit down with a group of employers and just be able to talk through those kind of issues with them and make sure they understand how important it is to continue supporting their actuaries in their professionalism journey.
Fantastic.
Not as funny as Annette's.
I'll come to that too, though. That's fantastic. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so moving to Kirsten, what is one issue that one of the other practice councils is focused on that you wish your council could also work on, although I realize you already have 6, and why?
Yeah, so about the 6, I'm not really adding anything here. This is just a discussion, right? So I had a couple thoughts on this, and my first thought was, climate change. There's a lot going on with that, and there is an impact to mortality. But right now, it's not huge. So is that something maybe down the road we have as an additional priority? The only thing is, recently, one of the states is starting to look at it as far as long-term solvency and what the impact of future climate change will be. So it may come sooner than we're thinking, but I put that aside. So the second thing is one that sort of I've had a little experience with based on my being the chair of DSEC is that AI. AI is coming. It's here. We're involved, and it's in a lot of the priorities we have already, sort of, but it's not as like a big separate priority. So that may be one. While I'm not going to add any priorities, so no one worry. I would just say, it's something that we want to be thinking about, and it's important, and it's going to change how we're doing things, how we look at things, and it's going to help too. It has the potential to help. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so Bruce, back to you. What does leadership in the profession mean to you, and how have you seen others benefit from engaging as Academy volunteers, including in their professional careers?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second part of that because I'd say it's very personal to me. So when you say others, I mean, I think my experience is a good example. I've just really relished the opportunity over the 16 years that I've been involved primarily with the pension committee to engage on policy issues with other professionals from other firms representing other interest areas, but just in an atmosphere that really supports looking at issues from different perspectives. We call putting on your academy hat, representing the public, representing other stakeholders, and actually making good progress. We put together comment letters, for example, on legislation and or regulations rather, and we get changes. Things happen because of the work that we do. That's so rewarding. And so I think where I see my role is to kind of continue to provide that atmosphere so that others can have the same experience. And, doesn't always go smoothly. I mean, pensions may not be the most exciting area to everybody, but sometimes there are controversies and heated debates. And so I think one of the things that I want to focus on is managing that so that we continue to have productive discussions and make progress in that area. So to sum it up, just kind of continuing to maintain the atmosphere that really provides an opportunity for volunteers to engage and to make progress.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody on the panel want to add to that?
Sure. Okay. So we'll fight over it. No, so yeah, I would say too, like just looking at the networking opportunities, education. I think those are networking. Definitely, you get to, as far as the members, pair up with people that are maybe more experienced on both the academy, so learning about the academy and how it works, but then also on different subject matters too. So there's a lot of learning with regards to that. And then networking just within your group, within the academy. It's great to come to things like this where you actually get to see people face to face and meet them for the first time. And so I would just add to that.
I totally agree. So thank you. Thank you both for that. Okay, so moving on here. Thinking about the members' use of the councils and committees' work products, how does that work reinforce the Academy's value to them? And this time, Nancy, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. So one thing that's top of mind right now is as we're all scrambling to document our continuing education that we've taken this year, and you probably noticed on your dues notice that some of you will be asked to attest that you have actually met the CE requirements of the USQS. Going forward, this will all be able to be documented and kept track of through Academy Learning. You'll be able to have that automatically keep track of your continuing education and so on. So I think it'll be a lot easier going forward, but you have a lot of materials available out there in Academy Learning, and for the most part, a lot of materials out there are also available free of charge. So I think that's a great thing for you to be able to use coming out of COPE. The other one that is that members will also benefit from the work of the newest member of COPE, which is called the MAAA. I even have to look at my notes for this, recognition committee. And it's really charged with going out and making sure that our stakeholders know what the designation stands for and how do we enhance the reputation of that. So we're working with regulators for places in regulations where our designation shows up there, and is it being used correctly? Are there places that we aren't using our designation that we should be in regulations? So as we enhance the reputation, as you start seeing it in more legislation, I think that will also benefit all of us as actuaries.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to just stick in a quick and shameless plug for Academy Learning. So if anyone who's listening has not been to Academy Learning, go there. There's tons of great stuff. So tons of great stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to adjust that question a little bit and focus it more on external stakeholders. So again, thinking about the councils and committees' work products, from what you've seen, how does that work reinforce the Academy's value to the external stakeholders? And for that one, Annette, I'm going to start with you.
So, we've focused quite a bit on external stakeholders in the Health Practice Council, and health and the cost of health care is top of mind for a lot of people. And actually, I'm very gratified to see this year a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, people that we didn't even realize were stakeholders, reach out to us and ask us for input on what's going on with all the different healthcare bills and so on that have been going on. So one of the, let me give you an example. So yesterday we met with the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan federal agency that is tasked with providing independent, objective information to the lawmakers, to Congress, so that they can make good policy decisions. Does that sound familiar? So, their focus is so closely aligned with the Academy's policy goals that, it's a natural area for collaboration. And we met with the CBO, representatives from the CBO yesterday, and they had a lot of questions for us regarding the drivers of healthcare costs. And one of the things they kept saying was, what are you seeing? This is what we're seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? And so that sort of collaboration, it's not just a work product, but just our being, reaching out to the various stakeholders they really value our input. And, you know, for the CBO that scores, I don't know if you know this, but they put a score on every bill that comes through Congress. And they're partnering with us in many ways. They've reached out several times this year, especially because this has been a particularly busy year for that. And so yeah, so I see this is a very tangible kind of manifestation of the value that other people see in the work that we do.
Fantastic. As you know, stakeholder engagement is near and dear to my heart. So I love to hear stories like that. So we have a couple more minutes. Bruce, anything you want to add to that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, most of our engagement in the retirement areas at the federal level, the Academy has done a really great job of facilitating engagement through Hill visits, retirement symposium, meetings with agencies. And, you know, that helps us kind of refine our work product so that it can be of value to regulators, legislators, to have the most impact. And, you know, I think my role is just to make sure that we're, you know, engaging as effectively in that process, learning from it so that we can, you know, use our resources widely and try to, you know, make change and put other people, our stakeholders, in position to make positive change.
Thank you so much. I'm going to throw in another shameless plug. I went to the retirement symposium for the first time. If you are a person in the United States, you should go. It was really good. It was really good. So great job. Okay, so I think we're kind of at the end of our time here. I just want to say thank you so much to all our panelists for putting an informative lens on the Academy's priorities for 2026 and the key plans that you have in the works. So let's give these guys a round of applause. Okay, and if you would like to learn more about what is in store for the Academy across the councils and operationally from our staff leadership, be sure to read the 2020, okay, it's another shameless plug, sorry. Read the 2026 January-February issue of Contingencies magazine, which will be out in January. And the program will continue now with the Academy's annual meeting of the members, the presidential transition, followed later by our awards luncheon for confirmed attendees. Thank you.
Hi, as we do a little bit of a transition, I wanted to go off script a little bit. And many of you heard this from me before, but one thing I really love about my profession, or our profession, is the equal opportunity aspect of the profession. As the father of 3 girls, I couldn't help but notice that when we had the panelists there, that Bruce was the only male. And you know, that's not because we set quotas. It's because it's really because each of them are extraordinarily qualified professionals. And I just love that about where we're at. Okay, back to the script. Hello and welcome to the Academy's formal annual meeting of members and presidential and leadership transition event. Thanks for joining us to conduct the business required under the Academy bylaws as we transition Academy leadership, learn about key accomplishments from this year, and explore what lies ahead in 2026. This includes the conclusion of my term as president, the beginning of Tricia Matson's term as president, and the beginning of and end of several officers and board member service. All of their service is critical to guiding and executing the Academy's strategic priorities, fulfilling the Academy's mission, and our service to you and all of the members of the Academy. And I think you just got a little bit of a hint of how hard many of them are working and how much they're doing. Traditionally, this annual meeting of the members and service recognition has been conducted in the fall, and that tradition continues. For those of you who may have missed the breakout sessions of our formal fall conference, you'll find comfort in knowing that a new Academy Policy Summit full of engagement, discussion, and continuing education will be held in the spring, which will dovetail with the Academy's annual visits to Capitol Hill. So we'll have a bigger program in the spring and this size program in the fall going forward. Today's summit and the meetings held just before it have focused on bringing together volunteer leaders and practice council members to plan for the Academy's coming year, and more broadly, to provide members and stakeholders an opportunity to learn about the Academy's leadership at the cusp of the new year. I'm going to kick things off with some important Academy business we have to discuss, followed by recognition, and then share some reflections on my year as president. After that, I'll officially hand the gavel to Tricia Mattson, and she will become president of the Academy. She'll then make some very poignant remarks. At this time, I'd like to officially call to order the annual meeting of the members of the Academy. We only have very short business today. The announcement of 3 individuals selected over the summertime by the membership as directors, the member-selected directors. Those 3 are Joseph Hicks, Ron Notborn, and Becky Shepard. The members selected directors are all new to the board of directors and beginning 3-year terms. And I'll look forward to serving with them on the board, and congratulations to all of them. I also want to note that the board terms for all incoming directors begin at the close of the annual meeting of members today. And with no other business to conduct, I'll hereby adjourn the annual meeting of the members, and their service begins. I'd also like to take a few members to recognize other Academy board members, including those who are incoming and outgoing. Please hold the applause to the end of each slide. The election of officers by the board of directors occurred during the annual meeting of the Academy board on October 21st. Hopefully we have a slide coming up. The incoming officers include Frank Tedisco, president-elect, Kirsten Peterson, who you just met, as well as Bruce Cadenhead, and Bill Jones, who's not able to be here today. And then I'd like to recognize a newly elected board-selected director. It's a special category whose presence the board of directors deems helpful and strategic to the Academy. And that's Joyce Bull. Joyce was elected at the October 21st meeting and will serve a 2-year term in that position. Congratulations and thank you. And then outgoing officers and directors, a few more here. Again, please hold your applause. Ken Kent, Jason Kerberg, Jason Russell, Steve Malrich, Joyce Bull, who's also an incoming board selected director, Derek Freya, Julia Lurch, and Kathy Murphy Barron. And then officers continuing their service are Tricia Mattson, Ben Slutzker, Secretary Treasurer, and then Vice Presidents Nancy Barron, Susan Kent, and Annette James. And directors continuing their service include Steve Armstrong, Lena Black, Eric Keener, myself, Stephen Koka, Donna McGregian, Mamba Mujala, and Lisa Slotsnick. And for all of you, I'd like to thank you for your service, past, present, and future. I'd also like to recognize the Academy's past presidents who are in attendance at this meeting. Steve Alpert, Cecil Bykirk, Tom Campbell, Mary Ellen Coggins, Kim Kent, Jim McGinnity, Dave Sandberg, Lisa Slotsnick, and Tom Terry. And thank you all for your service and continued commitment to the Academy, even after you've spent a lot of time serving as president. Finally, I'd like to recognize several actuarial organizations with representatives participating in this meeting. The Canadian Institute of Actuaries by Conrad Ferguson and Alicia Rollo. The Casualty Actuarial Society by Vincent Carter Bay. The Conference of Consulting Actuaries by Rob Rice-Catal and Josh Shapiro, and the Society of Actuaries by Dave Dillon and Greg Heydrich. Thank you all for your participation in our leadership transition event, and we look forward to continuing to work with each of you. Okay. As I stand before you today at the conclusion of my term as president of the American Academy of Actuaries, I feel gratitude, pride, a deep sense of responsibility, a little relief, but I'm still humbled by the trust you've placed in me. When I think about this past year, I'm struck by the timing of my term. My president has coincided with the Academy's 60th anniversary. 60 years is pretty overwhelming. And to commemorate the anniversary, the Academy prepared a video that we want to share with you now.
Let's go back to the 1960s, 1965 to be exact, when slide rules were key and every calculation lived on paper. A man named Henry Rood, along with the Joint Committee on the Organization of the Actuarial Profession, changed the world of actuaries forever by creating the American Academy of Actuaries. The world may look different now, but Rood's vision for the Academy remains objective, independent, balanced.
Now give it to me.
Founded to unify the profession, the Academy advances the role of actuaries, supports the professionalism structures, defends self-regulation, informs public policy, and ensures better outcomes for everyone. Over the decades, the Academy has evolved, helping guide the profession and public policymakers through a constantly changing world. Like in the 1970s, when the Academy established standards of conduct within the actuarial profession and opened its first office to review and uphold professional standards. Or the 1980s, as it created the Actuarial Standards Board and launched Contingencies Magazine, ensuring transparency, professionalism, and communication within the field. And then there's the 1990s, when the Academy introduced continuing education requirements and formed the Actuarial Board of Counseling and Discipline, ensuring actuaries uphold the highest standards of professional excellence. And into the 21st century, when the Academy collaboratively established the U.S. Code of Professional Conduct, providing the cornerstone of standards across the profession. That brings us to today, where we continue to chart new territory from artificial intelligence and Social Security viability to climate risk and financial resilience. From the very beginning, actuaries have been more than mathematicians. They are problem solvers, innovators, and stewards of public trust. The tools may have changed, but the purpose has stayed the same. 60 years of bringing clarity to complex issues. 60 years of serving the public through objective and independent actuarial insights and guidance. 60 years informing public policy. 60 years supporting the profession. Since 1965, the Academy has helped guide the nation through changes, shaping policy and strengthening trust in what it means to be an actuary as a leading expert voice. But the world is faster, more connected, and more complex now, and yet we remain guided by the same commitment to ethics and excellence that has defined the Academy since day one. From the challenges of the past to the opportunities of the future, the Academy will continue to empower actuaries and aid decision makers in making better, more informed choices that benefit us all for the next 60 years and beyond.
As it noted, the American Academy of Actuaries was founded in 1965 amid tremendous social and economic transformation. Medicare and Medicaid were just being established, and the country was deep in conversation about security, stability, and how we protect our citizens against risk. As our predecessors in the profession stepped forward to navigate these challenges with rigor, independence, and integrity that define our profession. These values are part of why I became an actuary, and it's probably why many of you chose the profession. The Academy is the National Association for Actuaries practicing in the U.S., and our purpose has remained constant across 6 decades: to serve the public and the U.S. actuarial profession by providing independent, objective, and balanced advice to policymakers, and by maintaining a strong professionalism framework that ensures the highest standards of practice. I don't think that sharing you with what makes the Academy truly special reflects any sort of bias. We are the voice of the actuarial profession in America's public policy arena. When I walk the halls of Congress, when I've met with state insurance regulators, or when I've briefed federal agency officials on long-term fiscal challenges, I've witnessed firsthand the respect and trust that the Academy commands. Policymakers turn to us often because we have no axe to grind, no product to sell, no political agenda to advance. We're there to help. We bring sound actuarial science and an unwavering commitment to the public interest. But, that's part of what keeps me up at night. That trust didn't come easily, and it can be lost quickly. It's built on the foundation of our professional framework, the actuarial standards of practice that guide our work, our rigorous U.S. qualification standards that ensure our technical competence, the code of professional conduct that holds us accountable, and a process for discipline that enforces all of these. These aren't bureaucratic checkboxes. They're the bedrock of the public trust, and we must continue to protect them fiercely. It is also built on providing independent, balanced, and objective advice to policymakers. And this requires us to make sure that we continue to focus on ensuring our work groups and our products are both diverse and inclusive and reflect inclusive ideas, listening to all of our constituents. When I began my presidency, the Academy was already strong, respected, and influential. However, in a rapidly changing world, standing still is not an option. The challenges facing our profession and the public we serve are evolving at a pace that we've never seen before. New risks are emerging, technology is fundamentally transforming our risk, and the expectations of our stakeholders are rising. To rise to this challenge, the Academy had much to do. So I'm just going to try to share a few things that we've accomplished together in the past year. And, I stand here before you emphasizing together because none of this is a solo effort. Nancy Behrens touched on this a bit, but one thing we did was we took decisive action to enhance the value of the member of the American Academy of Actuaries, or MAA, credential. I know some of you might say that sounds a little bit like navel gazing or professional vanity, but hear me out. It's really about ensuring that when a policymaker receives advice from an MAA, when an employer hires an MAA, or when a policy maker includes a reference to MAA in laws or regulations, which they've already done over 1,400 times, they understand what that designation represents, and that designation represents something. It represents a commitment to the highest standards of professionalism, competency, and ethical conduct. In a world where often credentials multiply and professional standards can be diluted, we need to make it crystal clear what it means to be an MAA. That matters not for our egos, but for the public we serve. We also strengthened our capacity to monitor and mitigate reputational risk, disruptive events, and the implications of international activities. We need to be vigilant, proactive, and prepared. The systems we've put in place this year help ensure that we are. This is a key part of serving the U.S. actuarial profession. We've also continued our focus in the past year on the value a member receives from the Academy, which really dovetails with the previously mentioned focus on the recognition of the MAA credential, and the value that an employer receives from the Academy, recognizing also the value, talked a little bit in the panel discussion, that a volunteer brings to the Academy. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir with many of you here, the enormous value that a volunteer receives from participating and volunteering for the Academy. A personal note, at dinner after the Hill visits last April, a colleague asked me about the highlights of my career as a health actuary since I've been retired for a few years. And, upon reflection, I was a little surprised but not shocked to realize that most of what came to mind were around things that I did as a volunteer for the Academy. That's really been a very highlight of my career. Our government task force has also embarked on a comprehensive governance review. If you've ever been through one of those, it's not a lot of fun. They require patience, several uncomfortable conversations, and a willingness to question practices that may have been in place for decades. This review was not undertaken by the board because we believe something's broken, but really because we thought that such a periodic review is essential if we want to remain relevant and effective. I believe we owe it to you, our members, and to the public to ensure that our governance structures enable us to be responsive and effective as possible. We're also discussing improvements and fully intend for them to make the Academy more agile, more transparent, and better positioned for the challenges ahead in our governance review. Tricia Matson will become the Academy's president in just a few minutes, and I'm so grateful for her, both for her friendship and wisdom over the last year, but also as chairperson of the Strategic Planning Committee, that she did a deep dive into how we can deepen stakeholder relationships and engagement. We are working on implementing a renewed process and framework for how we prioritize Academy activities and resources. This might sound a little bit like management speak, but it really matters because every day we've got to make choices about where we're going to focus efforts and how we're going to spend our time. Whether we're being strategic, are we listening to the right people? Are we talking to the right people? Are we making the kind of impact that we should be making? All of those are really focused on having an organized process for addressing our stakeholders. The new framework we've developed and are implementing ensure that these decisions are made both thoughtfully and transparently. Now let me talk about something that's really going to have a lasting impact on our profession. And again, that was briefly mentioned by Nancy Behrens this morning, but the changes we made to the membership and how we support the next generation of actuaries. Beginning January 1, 2026, a little over a month from now, we're going to implement new membership requirements tied to the competency framework and experience requirements. So prospective members will need to attest to meeting the competency framework. It'll be a self-attestation, and they will need to demonstrate 3 years of relevant experience with at least 1 year of responsible U.S. actuarial experience to ensure that they have both the practical knowledge and judgment that the MAA designation represents. I'm convinced that this outcome from a process that we began over 4 years ago is the right decision. These requirements reflect our commitment to maintaining high standards while recognizing the diverse pathways through which actuaries may develop expertise. The MAA designation should mean something, and these requirements ensure that it does. But at the same time, we're also making a significant investment in our future. We've adopted a 50% dues discount for new actuaries who join the Academy within their first 3 years of earning their actuarial credential. If we believe in the next generation, and we really must, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. We want talented young actuaries, many of which we'll recognize later as rising actuaries, to see the Academy not as some distant professional organization that they'll worry about joining later, but as a partner in their professional journey from day one. These two initiatives, both the enhanced membership requirements and the new member discount, work together beautifully. We're strengthening the MAA while lowering barriers. We're saying we expect excellence, but we'll support you in achieving it. That's the kind of profession I really want us to be. Kirsten mentioned this a little bit earlier, but now I need to talk about artificial intelligence, because if we don't, we kind of are ignoring the elephant in the room. AI is not some far-off threat or opportunity that future actuaries will need to deal with. It's here now, and at the risk of being painfully obvious, machine learning algorithms are being used for underwriting and pricing as we sit here. Predictive models are constantly becoming more sophisticated, and the analytical tools we use are evolving at a breathtaking pace. I'm really excited about what these tools could do for us, but I also have concerns, like many of you. How do we maintain professional judgment in an age of automation? How do we explain and defend our work when algorithms may become black boxes? And how do we ensure that work products that include algorithmic output continue to comply with our standards of practice, and that actuaries are fully qualified and equipped to move nimbly into this new landscape? As an academy, we're not going to stick our heads in the sand and pretend AI isn't happening, but I believe that our professionalism structure offers the answers actuaries need to use these incredible tools both professionally and responsibly. We're also not going to embrace AI uncritically and hope for the best. We're going to do what actuaries do best: analyze the risk, assess the implications, and develop thoughtful approaches to ensure that technological change serves the public interest. I certainly don't have all the answers, but the Academy remains deeply committed to these issues, and I trust that our volunteers will get us where we need to go. This work will continue long after my presidency ends, long after Tricia's presidency ends, probably long after Frank's presidency ends, but it's got to continue. We must stay absolutely committed also to the self-regulation of the profession. The principles that actuaries themselves, through the Academy, are best positioned to establish and enforce the standards of our work. As I reflect on my past year, what strikes me most is how all these initiatives connect. Efforts towards better public recognition of what the MAA means, improved governance, deepened stakeholder engagement, the new member requirements, the discount for early career actuaries, and our response to AI. Individually, each is really significant, but taken together, they represent something larger: a comprehensive effort to ensure that the American Academy of Actuaries remains strong, relevant, and effective in fulfilling our mission for the next 60 years. That's the responsibility I really felt every day of my presidency. I was not just leading the organization for this year, but for the future. I was not just serving a profession that I truly love, but I was building a platform for future actuaries to love the profession also. As I prepare to pass the torch to Tricia, I do so with confidence. The Academy is strong, our mission's very clear, our values are sound, and our future's bright. But I want to leave you all with a challenge, not just for the next president, but for all of us. The strength of the Academy, American Academy of Actuaries, doesn't reside in any one president or any one board. It resides in every single one of us. Every time you provide an objective analysis to the policymaker, you fulfill our mission. Every time you mentor a younger actuary, you invest in our future. Every time you uphold our professional standards, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you something, you protect the public trust. Every time you speak truth based on sound actuarial principles, you honor the legacy of those who built this academy 60 years ago. That's what I've tried to do this year and through my career, and that's what I'm asking you to continue doing. As I close, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to the Academy staff. You're the backbone of the organization, and your professionalism and dedication made everything we've accomplished this year possible. To all of my fellow board members, your wisdom, your willingness to engage in challenging discussions, and your shared commitment to our mission have kept us on the strategic path. And to all of the committee chairpersons and volunteers, you're really the engine that drives the work. And I'm in awe of what gets accomplished every year at the Academy. We didn't have it here, but they've put together a neat slide that kind of shows all of the, the number of comment letters and discussion papers, and it's just overwhelming in terms of the work product that's done. And then to my family and to all of the volunteers' families, thank you for understanding why this matters to each of us and so much to me also. 60 years ago, a group of actuaries had a vision, an organization that would serve the public interest, maintain the highest professional standards, and speak with an independent, objective voice on matters of public policy. Today, I can tell you that their vision endures. It endures because of the work we've done this past year for our members and for the public. It endures because of the work you do every day And it will endure because we remain committed to those founding principles: independence, objectivity, balance, professionalism, and service to the public interest and the U.S. actuarial profession. These principles have guided us for 6 decades, and they'll guide us for 6 decades more. Thank you so much for the privilege of serving as your president. It's been an honor. Thank you all. It's now my privilege to introduce Tricia Matson, your new president of the American Academy of Actuaries, and invite her to join me on the stage. And so we can begin the Academy's presidential transition, signified by the exchange of the traditional symbols of office, the passing of the gavel down here. I present to you, Tricia, this gavel, the symbol of leadership. And then I also present to you, Tricia, the Presidential Medal, if I can get it off. It's the symbol of the Academy's role as the National Association of Actuaries in the U.S., and it's worn at various events here and around the world. Wear this medal along with a pin. We have a pretty gold presidential pin that I'm not going to try to pin it on her because I'd stick her.
Give it from. Thank you.
Wear the medal along with a pin with pride as you represent America's actuaries. And now I officially welcome you as the 61st president of the American Academy of Actuaries. I'd see like the knot.
Thank you. And Daryl, I want to present you a medal, the outgoing presidential medal. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. It's been a pleasure to work with you over this year. Thank you so much. So thank you again. Thanks for your leadership. It's been fantastic this past year. Of course, I'm going to say that this is an incredible honor. There aren't good words for that. I mean, I can't, even chat couldn't help me. We talked a lot about AI. Chat can't feel what we feel. So I just really am so grateful for this. And I appreciate everybody who's here and those that are listening in from afar. So I have a few remarks to cover. I'm going to thank Daryl again, and thanks to everybody who's joined. So this is not just a milestone for me. It represents a responsibility to serve our profession and the public, and I take it very seriously. As I look out at this gathering of my friends, I've told a couple people over the last couple days that it's nice to feel like you're surrounded by family when you're standing up here, and that is how I feel. It reminds me of why I fell in love with the profession 3 decades ago. The ability to work side by side with such a talented group has been the highlight of my actuarial career. I joined the Academy as an ASA in 1996, and honestly, there's no way I could have imagined the journey that lie ahead. 4 years later, I became a fellow in 2000, and then I would say I started to understand that being an actuary was not just about technical excellence. It meant a commitment to serve the greater good, and we've heard a lot about that today. My volunteer journey began in 2001. I joined the Life Financial Reporting Committee of the Life Practice Council. My very good friend, Greg Smith, talked me into it, and I'm hoping that he's listening in right now. I still remember a feeling of awe going into those initial meetings, and we met a lot in person then. And I was surrounded by actuaries who were experts. They were super dedicated, and I was intimidated. I really was. I mean, I stuck with it, thank God, but it was intimidating. I wondered how I would add value to that. They welcomed me with open arms. So there were a few famous life actuaries on these committees with me. One of them's here, William Hines. Where are you? Yes. William is famous. And then a couple others I'll name that were there. Errol Kramer, some folks, especially you life actuaries in the house, will recognize that name. Rob Frasca. So I looked up to these guys, and they were so good to me. I discovered a group that welcomed diverse perspective. They valued my enthusiasm, even though I had very little experience, and they really believed in developing the next generation of volunteer leaders. And it's because of that experience for me that I am passionate about the Academy's commitment to inclusive volunteer experience and diversity of thought in our work. I would encourage every early career actuary to volunteer either with the Academy or another actuarial organization, because it does wonders for your career development. Over the past 2 decades, the Academy has given me extraordinary opportunities. I served as a member-selected director on the board from 2017 to 2020, and that helped me better understand the Academy itself and its critical role in serving the public and the profession. It also taught me about the delicate balance between moving quickly, but also ensuring that all voices are heard. It's a tension that I think we still have to navigate thoughtfully. I chaired the Actuarial Standards Board. That was perhaps one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences of my professional life. And I'll give another call out here to an experienced actuary that wanted to give someone early in her career, namely me, a chance, Godfrey Parrott. He recommended me to take the open life seat on the Actuarial Standards Board, and I learned so much about the hot topics at the time across all practice areas, and the biggest one then was pension and retirement. And similar to my early volunteer experience, I was welcomed and mentored by all the other ASB members, all of whom were more experienced than I was. When I joined, the chair of the ASB was Al Beer, and he served as a great mentor to me. He helped me to understand the critical importance of ASOPs and the ASB's role in maintaining appropriate minimum standards for actuarial practice. I was hooked, and my passion for actuarial professionalism continues and will continue for the rest of my life. During my tenure as chair of the ASB hosted the only public hearing that has occurred during my actuarial career. I presided over that hearing, which for me solidified the critical importance of ensuring that users of our actuarial work have enough information to understand the risks to which they are exposed. Tom Terry was Academy president at the time, and I spoke with him often about these topics. I think he may have had me on speed dial. And at that time, I never would have imagined that I would someday sit in his seat. Throughout my volunteer journey, I've been very fortunate to serve on a wide range of committees related to financial reporting, risk-based capital, and risk management. And even now, as an experienced actuary, but not old, I'm always impressed by the amazing volunteers around me, many of whom are being recognized today. Every committee I have participated in is full of passionate and expert actuaries willing to share their knowledge with others and provide unbiased, objective, and thoughtful input to public policy development. We are true stewards of financial security in the US. As I begin my term as president, I want to share my vision for the Academy and the priorities that will guide my leadership. First and foremost, we must recognize that we operate in an era of unprecedented change and uncertainty. The challenges that we face and the opportunities before us are unlike anything that previous generations of actuaries have encountered. We have data analytics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, climate change, demographic shifts, and rapidly evolving regulations, and those things are transforming every aspect of our work. The Academy must be at the forefront of helping the profession navigate these changes while ensuring we continue to serve the public interest with objectivity and integrity. As the Academy Board has discussed this current uncertainty, it has become clear that there are new risks facing every practice area. Financial security for the U.S. public is more important than ever. Availability and affordability of insurance is a critical issue today, particularly related to health and property casualty insurance. And the entire insurance marketplace faces new risks related to solvency and sustainability. And of course, we're all impacted by AI and advancements in data science. The Academy is uniquely positioned to provide leadership. We have the technical expertise to understand the issues and the potential solutions. We have the independence to offer objective perspectives that are not colored by commercial or other interests. And we have the credibility to serve as a trusted voice for policymakers and the public. I'm committed to ensuring that the Academy continues to advance thoughtful, well-researched perspectives on these critical issues. Professionalism, of course, remains the cornerstone of our profession's value to society through the standards that the Academy sets for our work. These standards enable the public to place trust in actuarial analysis. The trust isn't automatic. It has to be earned. We have to continue to earn it through consistent, high-quality, professional, and ethical work. While we're in a pretty strong position today, we shouldn't be complacent. We have to continue to ensure that actuaries understand their professional responsibilities through ongoing education and communication. Last month, the board updated the Academy's strategic plan. We did this to simplify and clarify the strategy and not to change it fundamentally. And I'm especially committed to 3 strategic objectives during my presidency. The first, we must equip our members with the appropriate resources to attain and maintain a high level of professionalism. This means providing them with more than technical guidance. We have to ensure that actuaries understand our code of conduct and our standards of practice, since these are the key tools that make us trusted advisors to principals and to the public at large. Second, we must provide the public with unbiased information that incorporates diverse viewpoints on actuarial issues. This is perhaps the most fundamental aspect of our mission. When we offer perspectives on things like lifetime income security, pension funding, healthcare reform, or insurance regulation, we must do so with care, objectivity, and transparency. Our work product should reflect the full spectrum of actuarial opinion, because this diversity of opinion and experience drives our credibility. And third, an area of passion for me, we have to promote visibility of the organization and its work. The Academy produces in the neighborhood of 300 insightful, objective, and impactful work products every year. Many of these actually only make it to a handful of stakeholders. So I'm committed to increasing the visibility of our work and the visibility of the Academy through a well-designed stakeholder strategy. We do amazing things, and we should not be a best-kept secret. Let me share a word about how I will approach the role of president. My leadership style is collaborative, focused, and as some of you may have noticed, energetic. Some might say too energetic. I disagree. I recognize that there can be a fine line between ensuring that all voices are heard and being able to move forward with decisions. So I'm going to work to honor both imperatives, creating space for dialogue while maintaining our ability to act decisively when we need to. I also recognize that I do not have expertise across all practice areas, nor am I an expert in all aspects of my own practice area. So when dealing with issues outside of my area of expertise, I have, and I will continue to, leverage those with deeper knowledge. We have plenty of people with deeper knowledge that I can leverage. I also want to acknowledge something important. I have a demanding day job. I don't have unlimited time to devote to this role. I think many of you can relate to that. I've been very deliberate in preparing. I did a spreadsheet, probably no surprise. I've reallocated some work responsibilities and personal time to ensure that I can serve effectively. My firm, Risk and Regulatory Consulting, has been incredibly supportive. Many of my colleagues are here in the room today, so thank you. And my family, knowing that I love to be busy, has encouraged me to take on the responsibility. I also have to shout out to my amazing Academy co-leaders They are also my support system. So many times Lisa and Daryl have volunteered to help me if I'm overloaded, which I greatly appreciate. And every board member is sharing in our strategic leadership. I wanted to share this because transparency about volunteer service is important. Not all of us can commit unlimited time, and that's okay. What matters is that we bring our full commitment and best efforts to the time that we do devote to the Academy. As I look ahead to this year of service, I'm energized by the opportunities before us. The Academy has never been more important or more relevant. The challenges that face our profession and the public are significant, but so are our capabilities and our commitment. This work is worth doing. The Academy's mission is a mission worth serving, and I'm deeply honored to have this opportunity to lead the Academy during this critical year. I want to close by expressing my gratitude to those early mentors that welcomed me into volunteer opportunities, to those who nominated me, and to the board members who have served and will serve alongside me, to the Academy staff who make everything possible, and I mean this, treat me like a queen, and to all of you who contribute your time, expertise, and passion to advancing our profession and serving the public. The Academy has been at the center of my professional growth and development. It's challenged me, taught me, and given me the privilege of working alongside some of the most talented and dedicated professionals I could ever hope to meet. As I embark on this presidential year, I do so with humility, determination, and eternal optimism. I know that together, drawing on our collective expertise, our commitment to professionalism, and our dedication to serving the public, we can meet the challenges ahead and strengthen the Academy's vital role in society. If anyone here in the room or listening from afar ever wants to reach out to me, you have a question, a suggestion, a comment, please do. You can email president@actuary.org. Thank you again for this extraordinary opportunity to serve. And I really look forward to working with everyone in the year ahead. Thank you so much.